With the Middle East in the midst of the worst turmoil in years and American troops finding themselves in harm's way in Iraq, Syria, and the Red Sea, there has been an ongoing scandal on the home front in the United States involving the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. The scandal revolves around Secretary Austin being hospitalized at Walter Reed Medical Center and the failure of Secretary Austin and others to notify President Biden or anyone in the White House that the Secretary of Defense, who's sixth in line for the presidency, was undergoing treatment in the ICU at Walter Reed. In this video, I plan to go over the timeline of events as reported in the media and why this scandal is a big deal. For a bit of background, Lloyd Austin has been Secretary of Defense since January 22, 2021, shortly after the inauguration of President Biden. Austin had served 41 years in the U.S. Army from 1975 to 2016. Austin served as commander of U.S. forces in Iraq during the withdrawal period starting in 2010, before then becoming commander of U.S. Central Command, which is responsible for all U.S. forces in the Middle East. During that time, he oversaw the campaign against ISIS. When he retired, he held the rank of general. So now, let's look at the scandal itself. The main issue at hand is that Secretary Austin was hospitalized in the ICU of Walter Reed Medical Center for several days before the White House was informed. So what exactly happened, and what's the timeline of events? Well, thanks to the reporting from Politico, we have a pretty good timeline as of the making of this video. I'll link the articles in the description below for you to review at your own leisure. From what has been reported on so far, the timeline of events goes like this. In early December, Secretary Austin is diagnosed with prostate cancer. On December 22nd, Secretary Austin has a prostatectomy, which is a surgical procedure that removes part or all of the prostate. According to Politico, the Defense Department did not inform the White House or the Deputy Secretary of Defense, Kathleen Hicks, of the procedure. Politico also reports that Hicks received some operational authority while Austin was in surgery. On December 23rd, Secretary Austin was released from the hospital. On January 1st, Secretary Austin participated in a teleconference with President Biden. Sometime that evening, though, Secretary Austin had severe pain and was taken to Walter Reed, where he's diagnosed with a urinary tract infection. On January 2nd, Secretary Austin was transferred to the ICU at Walter Reed. DoD spokesperson Major General Pat Ryder, Pentagon Press Chief Chris Meagher, and DoD Chief of Staff Kelly Magsamen learned that Austin is in the hospital. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Charles Brown, is also informed that Austin is in the hospital. In addition, Deputy Secretary Hicks is told that she'll be taking over some of Secretary Austin's responsibilities, but she's on vacation and is unaware that Austin is in the hospital. At this stage, the White House still has not been informed. On January 4th, Deputy Secretary Hicks and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan are informed of Secretary Austin's hospitalization. President Biden is made aware shortly thereafter. The following day, on January 5th, Congress is notified of Austin's hospitalization. On January 6th, Secretary Austin releases a statement stating, "I also understand the media concerns about transparency, and I recognize that I could have done a better job ensuring the public was appropriately informed. I commit to doing better. But this is important to say. This was my medical procedure, and I take full responsibility for my decisions about disclosure." Austin also speaks with President Biden later that day. On January 7th, it is revealed that Secretary Austin is still hospitalized 6 days after being taken to Walter Reed. The next day, on January 8th, the White House advises that it will review if and what rules and procedures weren't followed during the scandal. On January 9th, the White House is informed of Secretary Austin's cancer diagnosis, and this information is then revealed to the public. So that's where we stand as of the making of this video. Now please go check out the article by Politico for the full details. But now we need to look at why this is such a big deal in the media and on Capitol Hill. There's really numerous reasons that Secretary Austin's hospitalization should have been disclosed. The primary issue is that as head of the Department of Defense, his authority for providing orders to American forces is second only to the President of the United States. If at any point the Secretary of Defense can't perform his duties, it's vital that the proper authorities, and especially the President, are made aware. In addition, many within the Pentagon itself weren't aware that Austin was indisposed. This all creates a break in the chain of command. With high tensions in the Middle East, it's imperative that there's someone clearly in charge at the Defense Department to respond to any potential crisis. This obviously poses a national security risk to the United States in the event of there having been a major international incident while Secretary Austin was in the hospital. While I try not to make this channel political as much as possible, I would be remiss to acknowledge the political fallout from the scandal. This has obviously led to attacks on President Biden from the Republican Party for several reasons. For one, they criticized the administration for a lack of transparency within it, pointing to Secretary Austin's withholding of information not just from the White House, but from Congress as well. They are also criticizing the president for an apparent lack of control over his administration, owing to the fact that so many were kept out of the loop about Austin's condition. Republicans are now calling for Austin to be fired or to resign, as well as calling for hearings to look into the scandal. Regardless of your political persuasion, the criticism and concern over this scandal has resulted in a rare moment of bipartisanship in Congress. Now, while no Democrats have called for Austin's resignation or been too scathing in their criticism of President Biden, according to an article in The Hill, Senate Armed Services Committee Chair Jack Reed is open to a hearing regarding the scandal to determine what happened and what reforms, if any, need to be made. So now I wouldn't expect this story to go away anytime soon, especially considering that we're entering into an election year that will incentivize the GOP to try and use the scandal to hurt Biden as much as possible. Regardless of all the political consequences, they are really secondary when the primary issue is the break in the chain of command and the possible risk to national security this whole scandal presented. I think we can all agree that we hope for the best for Secretary Austin as he recovers from this episode. Especially with his recent cancer diagnosis, I hope he has the best possible outcome from it. I hope you found this video informative. With so many Twitter threads and articles and commentary on this issue, it can be really hard to see the actual story through all the weeds. I hope that the comment section can please remain civil in any discussion on the issue. I know politics can bring out the worst in people, but please try to remember we're all human here. Now, if you didn't know already, I do have a Twitter now, or X, or whatever we're calling it these days. So please be sure to go give me a follow at Today's History 13. And with that, I'll see you on the next one.